The USMC officer laughed like it was nothing. He held her ID up in the air, the corners of his mouth curling into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You're kidding me," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The squad's laughter followed, sharp and unkind, like a flock of birds taking flight at the sound of a storm. She stood there, shoulders tight, heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. The sun was harsh that day, the kind that made sweat bead on the skin and turned the air into a thick, heavy blanket. Dust clung to her boots. Her hands trembled, but she refused to look away. "Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you were watching from. I love knowing who's listening." Her name was Mara. She wasn't new to discipline. She wasn't new to being underestimated. But the cruelty of that moment cut deeper than any drill. She had been assigned to the base as a medic, a role that required strength, patience, and quiet courage. Yet here, in this open courtyard, she felt like a target.
Yeah.
The officer didn't stop. He pointed at her ID again, as if the paper itself had offended him. "This doesn't belong here," he said, voice dripping with contempt. The other recruits watched with a strange mixture of amusement and curiosity, waiting to see how far he would go. Mara's throat tightened. She had trained for years to keep her emotions from showing. She had learned that in the military, vulnerability could be dangerous. But this was different. This wasn't about strength. It was about respect. It was about being seen. She stepped forward, slowly, as if approaching a wild animal. The air shifted around her. The murmurs rose, then fell into a heavy silence, like the world had been holding its breath. The officer leaned in, smirking. "What are you going to do?" he asked. Mara's eyes flickered to the crowd. She could feel their attention like heat on her skin. She could feel the weight of their judgment, their doubt. Her mind raced. She could fight him. She could walk away. She could cry. She could do nothing. Then she did something else. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small, crimson, patch-on embroidered needle in the shape of a red line. The symbol was simple, almost unassuming, but it meant something only a few understood. The room seemed to tilt. The wind stopped. The laughter vanished as if it had never existed. The officer's smile faltered. His eyes widened, the color draining from his face. The red needle was not just a symbol. It was a code, a mark of elite training, a sign that she had been through trials most people couldn't imagine. It was the kind of proof that could shatter a man's arrogance in one silent moment. The crowd whispered. Some of them stepped back, suddenly uncertain. The recruits who had been mocking her now looked at her like she was someone else entirely, someone they had never truly seen. Mara didn't speak. She didn't need to. The red needle had already spoken for her. The officer's voice finally returned, but it was quieter now. You're one of them," he stammered, the words tasting like defeat. Mara's chest rose and fell slowly. Her hands stopped shaking. The tension in the air was thick, but it no longer felt like fear. It felt like power. She didn't gloat. She didn't celebrate. She simply held her head high, and in that moment, she became more than a target. She became a reminder. A reminder that respect isn't earned through cruelty, it's earned through character. Through skill, through the quiet strength to stand tall when the world expects you to crumble. The officer's laughter was gone. The silence stayed, because the truth was clear. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun. It's the proof of who you really are. Mara walked away, leaving behind a stunned crowd and a lesson they would never forget. Because courage doesn't shout. It waits then. It changes everything. If you felt the shock of that moment, leave a comment and subscribe for more stories like this. So every hero has a hidden mark, and every mark has a story. Strong CTR line. Want to hear the next story that leaves everyone speechless? Hit subscribe and don't miss it.